Hey, kids. Welcome to another Boba Joe show.
Welcome. Ready for a bash. Ready for not a clash, but a bash. We'll do our
Yeah,
clash next week.
this guy's ready. I don't know what he's called, but I'm just going to call him WrestleSaurus.
Yeah. Pro Wrestlesaurus. Use a scientific name. I mean, most scientists believe that Pro Wrestlesaurus actually had feathers. It looked more like a
Yes, I
bird.
think it's true. Possibly multicolored feathers and diamond sequins.
Yeah. Feather boas, sunglasses.
Lots of attitude.
But yeah, we're here for the bash, the Great American Bash. It's a little bit of a different take on our usual wrestling reviews this week because we're kind of we're going to talk about the Great American Bash, like overall what it was, but when we're talking about the matches, we're going to be just looking at a one particular card from the Great American Bash 1986, from the Great American Bash tour of 1986, because it was a
One they
tour. It
used to
was
have on the network before they pulled the network, because there's not recordings of all the different multiple shows. So that's why I just picked that particular one, because it exists.
It exists. It's there. There's actual footage. The event itself, while it's taped, there is no commentary. There is no
Yeah, it's strange
play-by-play,
about the commentary.
and it makes though for an interesting viewing experience. I'm not opposed to watching wrestling matches without commentary sometimes, as long as the work is good enough that you don't notice it. So I'd imagine if you had to watch a modern show without commentary, it could be difficult at times. But no, what we got here is going to be a lot of fun.
It's a good
So we
live
got
show.
this. It's a good live show. It's a good live show. What do you think of the concept of the Great American Bash itself, the idea behind
So
it?
I don't know, but I assume is it around to do with one of the holidays and that, because it's been like summer in America and like it's obviously warm outdoor weather. And I don't know if it's
Yeah, it's
around
like
Independence Day or exactly when, because it toured over a period of time and they did multiple shows.
yeah, it feels like the summertime tour really for
So I
Crockett
guess it's like
Promotions
what do
here.
you get in the WWF? You get like well, there's Summer Slam, I guess, like something be their summer event.
Yeah,
Whereas
the big summer
in
show.
Australia, our summer's January, so Royal Rumble summer here.
But yeah, it's the basic concept is we're going to have this Great American Bash series of events. They're all going to be big events, or at least in Dusty's eyes, they're going to be big
They're all
events. There's
super
going to be
cards, and they're
yes,
like, they're equivalent of NWA seasonal event pay per view, but the previous year's ones get confusing about which one. But 85 was kind of a one off event. 86 was like a whole series, like a touring. If you had a rock band, I don't know, the Grateful Dead, they went on tour and toured around different states in America, like that, but wrestling basically.
yes, with mostly decent results at the box office as well. Like
Yeah,
the
some
particular
towns had not great money, some had really good money, but
yes,
the overall thing was successful in the first 3 years at least anyway.
yes, yeah, and the one we're going to look at today would have been one of their bigger successes for the 86 run. Like it's a stadium show. I think there's like 25,000 people there.
Yeah.
It's a good crowd and a good
Like
gate
the
for
worst
them.
crowds they had, some of the towns that didn't do so well had something like 12,000, because I was just listening to the Cornet thing the other night and went over some of the numbers.
We should note as well that it's an outdoor event, and a lot of
Yeah.
the other cards had taken place outdoors. So I believe there had been an issue with some of the cards where it had been, essentially a rainy day, so not too many people
Yeah.
turned up to attend an outdoor show, which you can understand would
Actually,
affect
that was funny, because on the same Cornet podcast where he was talking about the bash, not just this one but like the whole series, he said some of those Southern fans were so hardcore, and some of the ones that did get rained out, they thought they were going to have to call the shows off, but the people wouldn't leave. So like, okay, we're going to have to keep going. So people wouldn't leave. Like, we don't care. We're tough. We're going to sit out here in the weather.
Going to wrestle in this slippery ring in miserable conditions.
But yeah, before we get under our first match, I found these images on eBay. It's from an actual program from back then. Someone's selling it, but it's just the photos here of a little kind of glossy magazine booklet. So I'm just going to read out this bit here because I'm keen to see what it says. So we've got, "Dear wrestling fan, on behalf of the Jim Crockett Promotions, welcome to Great American Bash 86. We're very proud and happy you've decided to spend part of your summer with us. You'll be seeing what we feel is the very best in wrestling and music." Because that's the other thing. You get like a 1 hour music performance as well, which you won't see in the recorded version on the wrestling networks. But if you were there on the day, depending on what city you're in, and you would be seeing a live music act as well. The end result will be a night and month we are sure you will never forget. The month of July celebrates our nation's birth. There you go. So this one's in July. And to help out in the celebration of Jim Crockett Promotions has planned this great lineup of family entertainment. And we hope you enjoy the Great Bash 86. Our way of saying thank you, our great fans. After all, you're the ones that make our country great. Sincerely, Jim Crockett Jr., President Jim Crockett Promotions. And that's not the sort of thing you tend to see from WWF. It feels like actually sincere and not,
It's a nice gesture, definitely. I just love it. It's just a really nice touch to have it in your event kind of program or leaflet. No, I love this type of stuff.
And I must have made some version of VHS because I saw this also on this image online here. So got Turner Home Entertainment. So some version of it or highlights at least must have made it onto VHS back in the day.
Yeah, and I hadn't watched this 86 card we're going to look at today. Like, I watched it this week, but I was pretty much watching it for the first time. The only match I'd seen before was the main event, because the main event match with Ricky Morton was on one of those best of Ric Flair DVDs. They happened to have it.
Yeah, I would have seen it on a Ric Flair DVD as well.
So, but it was a treat for me.
Like, we've got tag team, singles, bunkhouse, Indian strap, tape first, Russian chain. I don't know what makes it Russian. I guess because it's got pretend Russians in it. But it's just a chain, really. Hair versus hair, steel cage, and two different steel cage matches. One with sort of like group and other singles. But yeah, so first match we get Denny Brown versus Steve Regal. We'll click over this one. We get that's just showing this kind of outdoor stadium there. It starts off in the kind of dusk afternoon and quickly becomes nighttime. So it looks like, well, I assume it's a football field or something by the look of it, and the kind of bleachers and lights.
Big crowd. Yeah, still daylight here for the opening match with Danny and Steve Regal. Steve Regal, of course, not to be confused with Steven Regal. Two different guys. Dare I say, it's always a slight disappointment when I get the two of them mixed up. It's like, oh damn, it's the other Regal. But
Steven.
Yeah, it's not Steven, it's just Steve. But Steve is still he's still a good wrestler, Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal. And these two guys, I always kind of chuckle when you get a baby face that's not exactly adored by the crowd, because when Danny is announced, you can hear a decent portion of the crowd booing him, even though he's supposed to be like the good guy. But these two guys, they actually have a good match that goes to a time limit draw. But I think this has kind of proven my point as to what I was saying earlier with being able to watch an event with no commentary. They have a match that's good enough where you actually don't really notice the fact that there's no commentary. I was actually a decent amount of time into this event before I was like, hey, wait a minute, nobody's been saying anything, like apart from the ring.
Yeah, you just get the announcer of like the guy saying it's so and so versus whoever when they sort of kick off in the ring.
Yeah. And then intermittently you'll get the 5-minute announcements, like there are 5 minutes remaining, and you'll hear that. But other than that, there's no real. Yeah, there's no kind of play-by-play or anything like that going on. But no, it's a nice kind of back and forth match to kick things off. It's for the light heavyweight championship, and these guys, I have to say, like, look pretty big for light heavyweight, but that was just the style of the times. They were still beefy dudes. Like by today's standards, they'd be full on heavyweight by today's wrestling standards.
They're both very fast too. Like they whip fast. Their moves and
both very technically smooth. Regal seems to have always been kind of placed in that light heavyweight / junior heavyweight type of role, because I watched stuff from him before in Texas, like with WCCW and in other places, where he's always he's like the smaller technical guy, but they seem to have enough confidence in him that you could, put an actual belt for a division, like a weight division, on him. Like these guys managed to really pull that off. And we are still in a time period where just because it's a lower weight limit doesn't mean you're going to see like insane lucha moves or anything like that. They are still essentially, they're going to wrestle like a traditional style wrestling match, just it's going to be a lot quicker and faster paced than what you're used to watching, because of, they're lighter and they're leaner and they can move a lot faster. But yeah, a nice wee opener to
it's
kick
a good
things
opener.
off.
It's nice and doesn't overstay its welcome, but good like technical moves, and I was just really impressed. I thought the athleticism and that, and you never know sometimes some shows if they're going to start out strong or kind of boring and build up a bit, but I think it's a good strong start to the show.
I think from the shows we kind of looked at so far, usually when we look at I know we've mostly looked at WWF, but when we look at non-WWF shows, I always feel like we get better opening matches when it comes to these like NWA or WCW shows. When we look at them, then when we watch the WWF shows, sometimes we get lousy opening matches to
but maybe
kick off
maybe
the
in
show.
WWF they expect people are turning up late. They're still going to the can. They're buying their hot dogs. They don't want to put their best matches on too early, sort of thing.
And maybe that's me being unfair as well. It could just be because I'm buzzing over watching a card that I hadn't watched before, that it seems just more exciting to me or whatever. I was kind of getting
I think
a
it's
kick
kind
out
of
of
thing the
watching
NWA. They usually have kind of a bit more evenly paced super cards, and maybe because their super cards were before pay-per-view and all that, so they weren't really thinking of that. They were just thinking of doing a good show, sort of thing.
Plus, when you're not, it's not a TV show, and there's no.
It's a show made for
like,
live audience, not to cater to the cable network and censors and all that.
And bollocks advertisements, which ruin when you're watching those, like the modern pay-per-views. You might look at it on paper and be like, oh, it's only 4 or 5 matches. That will be a nice short show. But then when you watch it, it's like
10 hours.
It's like 10 hours with tons of ads every
so many ads and promos and ads for video games, and
the ads never stop. I think that's why though these shows feel like a breeze when you're watching them. They just kind of fly by these.
You're not getting like 30 minutes of filler of highlights of previous weeks of stuff spaced throughout the show to pad it out. You're getting like just the matches and minimum fuss in between. But you're not even getting long-winded entrances. They're just kind of cuts and they're there, or you might see a manager or something walk in and a bit of a scuffle back and forth, and then they get started.
There's no, of course, because we're outdoors as well, and because of the time period we're in, there's no big screen or big visual display for the live crowd.
It's the crowd and the ring.
If you're there, you're out in the open. They have people around ringside, but it's only about maybe 10 or 12 rows of people, because obviously you're on ground level, so you're not going to be able to see. So it's really the main bulk of the crowd starts when you actually get to the stands, where the people have actually, been at an elevated height. I love looking at these old, stadium shows. They just look really different and unique compared to what we see these days.
You haven't got those upper tiers like your modern super stadiums, so you don't really need the big screens, because it's that football style. You're angled down, so you can actually see pretty well even from the sort of back and that. Granted that the wrestling is a lot smaller than watching a whole team of people on a football field. It's a bit different.
But everybody who kind of wrestles on this show, they're obviously wrestling that style. It's that very kind of, and look, they all wrestlers do it, even modern days. But like, it's that really flamboyant or exaggerated, where you're waving your arms in the air when you're getting hit and stuff. But it's because you need the people who are way back in the crowd to be able to know what's going on. Like when they're watching that from afar, they need to understand the action that's happening in the ring. So you really need to
Yeah, it's
exaggerate
definitely
everything.
part of the skill set, which if you're only getting like cameramen so close that you're occasionally bumping into them by accident, you're not having to sell so much of those waving around antics and that. But it's definitely part of the skill set. So we'll go on to our next match. We've got here Robert Gibson and Black Bart. Now, NWA fan? Could be. Wolfpack, sorry, Wolfpack. It's like when I saw this, I'm like, he's a Wolfpack fan.
Black Bart, the Mid Atlantic, or sorry, he's the Mid South champion, I believe, at this point. That's the belt he's got around his waist. Nice looking belt as well.
Yeah,
So we,
definitely holding his pants up.
The interesting thing about this particular card is we have both members of the Rock and Roll Express competing in singles matches against big champions. Now, in the case of Robert Gibson here, the belt is not on the line. Black Bart's belt is not up for grabs, but it's still Black Bart is a pretty big deal heavyweight star for
he's a chunky monkey.
Yeah, for Robert to be contending with here, but this is going to be a card to showcase the singles ability of the Rock and Roll Express, because we actually do get a nice big man versus smaller man match here between Gibson and Black Bart. And Gibson, even though he's not as maybe well known for it as his partner is, but he's also really good at selling as well. So when Black Bart's on the offense and really giving it to Gibson, he is like, it's like he's dying practically at every blow that's delivered to him. But it really works, and we hear lots of young people in the audience that seem to sound concerned, especially some young ladies in the audience that are particularly bothered by the fact that he's getting pummeled by Black Bart at times during this match. But
yeah, I like hearing the crowd noises in this one, because it's not over the top with annoying chants or anything. It's just like genuine reactions and noise, and it's not overpowering. It's just part of the kind of ambient sound of the match and that.
While we're on that note with the sound, what did you think of the sound of the ropes in this event? You can really hear
the sound
it
of the
sounds
what?
like
There's a friggin' airplane or something over right now. I couldn't hear you. I'm outdoors.
Yeah, it's like when guys hit off the ropes, it sounds like they're like it's like a taser or something. There's like you can hear the
that's
plastic
what it was.
rattling.
I couldn't work it out on the audio. If you were there in person, you wouldn't be hearing this weird noise. I mean, it wouldn't sound the same, but for some reason on the audio, when it's recording it, it sounds like if I got like cellophane plastic, or I was opening an action figure going at that kind of sound. I kept hearing it going, what is that? I thought it was just a technical glitch. And I went, no, there's something in the background. And the way their equipment is picking it up, it's amplifying a certain tone of it and making it quite weird when you're watching the recorded version. So I didn't know what it was. I'm so glad you mentioned that it was the ropes. I was wondering, what the hell is making that noise all through the matches?
Yeah, because throughout the event you can just and it's like
I thought someone was walking around opening their popcorn or something outside the ring. It's like, what is that?
And it's more noticeable because when there is no commentary, you're kind of hearing it full blast. It's probably the type of thing that maybe happens often, but you don't notice it when there's two guys kind of talking over it or whatever.
If you were there on the day, the sound would just sound normal, not that weird crunch, not so much crunching. It's just the way it comes through the microphone makes it sound really strange.
Yeah, Gibson, he manages to survive the onslaught of Black Bart to score a quick win here, which is very well received by the crowd. Like they are going wild that the underdog has survived Black Bart here. And there's a funny bit at the end of this match when he's leaving, when Gibson is leaving through the crowd. This very excited young woman tries to like grab him and like rub herself on him basically, and then this cop steps in between them to kind of help him move on and get backstage, and she just hits the cop right in the back, and he just looks at her like, what? And the camera just cuts away, you know. It's like, yeah, so the ladies were going wild for the members of the Rock and Roll Express back in the day, even willing to hit a cop, you know, to touch him.
Yeah, it's nice that it's a more sedate affair, not one of those, I don't know, one of those legendary house show ones people get stabbed and slashing tires. It's like the kind of show where someone can do something like that and get away with it and be like, whatever, you know. I'm sure that cop didn't go home complain about it. He's like, oh well, this lady's a bit of a rascal, you know.
It's funny though, like, because the crowd are just very unique compared to today's type of crowds. Like there's a guy you can see that when they play the national anthem at the start of the show, like obviously you've got all these people standing up and putting their hands over their heart and stuff. But then like when the camera's panning around, you see this one lad, he's smoking this really long pipe. And he's just puffing away during the national anthem and looking at his watch, like, you know, what fucking time does this shit start? It's just you just don't see that type of stuff.
Where does this shit start? What's going on?
It's funny, man, because there's a few times. There's another moment as well. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but basically, when Dusty Rhodes was getting beat up later on, like he's getting beat up right by the crowd barrier, and like a lot of people in the crowd are like, "Oh no, you know what's happening?" Except for this one guy who's just like standing there smoking a cigarette, just looks really calm and like it's just like, you know, what's going on here, you know?
He's probably like, I've seen this guy 20 times before. He'll be fine. He does this every other week.
Yeah. This guy has been like, this is like his 5th bash event. He's gone through all of them for the month of July. He's just seen this a million times, you know. But yeah, the crowd are funny at times, definitely. But yeah, it's a quality encounter here between these two. And like I said, this show is probably a nice example of the Rock and Roll Express's ability to actually be good singles wrestlers, apart from being a good tag team. Because nice change of pace.
Okay, so the next one we got Minnesota Wrecking Crew, Ollie Anderson and Arn Anderson with Sam Houston and Nelson Royal, and hopefully we'll be in the right order. There it is. They kick off. I'm just going to grab a like a Panadol, so my neck pain is, it's kicking and it's hurting. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Work away. Yeah, the Minnesota Stretching Crew, we got the Andersons going up against Sam Houston and Nelson Royal. Of course, Sam Houston, the brother of Jake Roberts, I believe. And we got Nelson Royal, his partner here. He's getting on a bit in age. He comes out dressed in all his kind of cowboy rodeo gear, and as he begins to like disrobe and remove all his gimmicky stuff, we see just like a flabby dude who's probably a little bit past his prime. I probably shouldn't be ripping on guys like this because I'm getting close to that type of age on the horizon. But yeah, we've got tag team action here. The Andersons, of course, are well established at this stage as the dominant heel tag team, and we see Oli and Arn, who is actually the
Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson, Arn Anderson. He's actually the television champion at this point, interestingly enough. So he's competing in tag team action tonight with his kayfabe cousin, but he is also, in fact, a singles champion at this moment in time. And I was just remarking when you were out of the room how I thought, like, you know, Nelson Royal, like he comes out wearing all his flashy cowboy gear and stuff, but by the time he disrobes, he's just this like flabby old dude. By the time he takes off everything, right?
They really color coordinated this match with all the trunks.
Yes, it's all red and white gear in this match. The Andersons, though, they're in typical form and they're just, you know, dominating the action for most of this.
Who are such strong-looking dudes, man? I would not want to wrestle them. They've got that, like, I don't know, like Taz or Neidhart. They've just got that round, solid middle like a bloody tree trunk.
They just look like two tough bastards, really. Is the best way to describe them. And even Oli at this stage, even though he's probably starting to wind down a little bit, he's still bringing it in the ring. Arn is the real star, though, in terms of actually what he's able to do, especially at this point of his career. He's still young and crisp and really on the money. In the ring, they do a great job of just beating the piss out of Sam Houston for a long time. Before he's able to get the tag to Nelson Royal. So kind of second time, I think, talking about Sam Houston. He sprung up somewhere else recently. I think maybe when we were covering the first Royal Rumble, he was one of the guys in that first ever Royal Rumble match. It's funny sometimes how we might go for a period of time without never talking about a guy at all, and then he'll just start springing up a couple of times in these wrestling reviews. But yeah, the Andersons, they do for a brief moment in time almost get got by the good guys, but not for long. They're able to take back control and ultimately win the day and defeat their opponents of Royal and Houston and give them a good pummeling to while they're at it, much to the anger of the crowd who aren't fond of these antics at all by the Anderson boys. Totally believable as well that the Andersons could be related to each other. Like if I didn't know that it was only a pretend family,
yeah, you wouldn't. You would assume
thing,
they were like brothers or whatever.
yeah, really believable that they're. I think they're supposed to be like cousins or something like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
they could have been brothers easily. They could have been brothers if they wanted to establish that.
It's like when I watch one of those bloody Zazel talks, like they was from Australia, and then that Canadian dude Adam, if like he told me they were brothers, I'd believe it. I'd be like, they could be brothers. Tag team.
While we're looking at this actual still shot that we're looking at, because I often discuss this with friends of mine who also like watching old wrestling. So this is Jim Crockett Promotions, and it's the NWA. That's
Yeah,
the banner. When you look at that ring and you look at that
it looks like
NWA logo,
AWA, but I assume it's like a
look, yeah,
stylized
exactly, yeah,
N. Because the first
yeah,
time I
but it's
looked at
got
it, I went, "What is this AWA?" I went, "Hang on, it doesn't look like the AWA logo. It's
yeah,
just it's got like a negative space for the N almost."
yes, but it would have been a great AWA logo if it wasn't the
Yeah, it would
NWA
have been.
logo. I
Because
always
the
think
N
of it. I
starts
always
from the line that goes along and then up, and then it's only half
yes,
of it, and it turns into the W's. That's why it's quite strange looking.
yeah, I always yeah. A bit of a misfire there, I think, with that NWA logo. I think, especially because the AWA does exist at the time. It'd be different if it didn't exist already and your brain didn't
Yeah,
go there.
you couldn't get away with that now if you're doing post year 2000. Any graphics or logos and all the trademarks, copyrights, merchandise, yada yada. You couldn't get away with things too similar. They'd be like, no, we're going to make this very much different because that other thing looks similar.
And even just like some marketing dude, anyway, I'm sure, or anybody really looking at it would be like, it's not a great logo. It's just not a very. It's not instantly. I don't know. It's like that when they changed the WCW logo in '99 to that weird
Oh, to that
blob,
horrible
gray
one with the
star
weird
blob.
spikes.
Yeah.
It became like a around that same time, people were getting all those tribal tattoos with the crazy spikes
Yeah.
and shit, and it was real that sort of stuff. I hated that one. And there was they hired some graphic designer weirdo to do that had nothing to do with
Oh yeah.
wrestling.
Oh, you know it. You know it. But that's the thing. Like I think, if you have to kind of look at a logo for more than a few seconds to work out what it's a logo for, then that logo's failed. Like you've kind
Yeah,
of fucked up
I
there.
think
Like
the best one of the best ones, because you mentioned WCW when they had WCW Saturday Night. That's up there with like Miami Vice. Put that on a bloody wall for me, man, with that
yeah,
neon, and that's beautiful logo.
perfect branding. Perfect. The Boba Joe board would love that type of stuff.
I could
If
just
we
sit
were
there, go to
selling
sleep
merch.
staring at that. Probably get a headache being it's a bloody neon bright light, but I would do it. I'd sit there staring at
Yeah, with Crockett's team playing,
it. Okay, so next up match we have Manny
Yes.
Fernandez versus Baron von, I can't pronounce this,
Baron
Rashki?
von Raschke, Baron von Raschke, another person who just like we hadn't spoken about him at all, and then he
This
randomly
looks
showed
like
up
a
when
couple
we were,
of dads out of the park out the back.
yeah,
Someone didn't turn up. Let's get some guys out of the audience and chuck them in there in these casual clothes.
yeah. Baron von Raschke especially looks like he's been sitting in the pub all day. He's been down in pint.
Yeah, looks like a
Somebody said
really good.
somebody said the wrong thing to him, and now he's out the back and he's oh fucking kill you. But
Right,
once again though,
you and your mate. Oi, we're gonna go right now.
but Baron von Raschke, like once again, we hadn't seen him at all, and then when we covered the first SummerSlam, he's the guy coming out to the ring with the powers of pain. He's like randomly managing the powers of pain. So it's you know he's doing that, and then a couple of years earlier, he's dressed like somebody's dad down the pub who's going to get into a fight with Manny Fernandez, the raging bull and former tag partner Dusty Rhodes, Manny Fernandez here. I was actually kind of shocked because Baron von Raschke looked so bad, and I assumed he was going to be kind of immobile and not being able to do much. I kind of foolishly assumed before this match started that it wasn't going to be that good, but they really they really subverted my expectations, especially Baron. He actually both of the guys are bleeding before the end. They're just really laying it into each other, and the Baron he's wearing that yellow t-shirt, his jeans and his cowboy boots, but as he's brawling his way through the match with Manny, he's like removing items of his clothing all the time to like hurt Manny with. So like at the start, like he takes off one of his cowboy boots and he's like beating him across the head with the heel of it. And then at one point he takes off the belt from his jeans to start whipping him with it. But because he does that, like as the match continues, his fucking jeans start falling down around his legs.
Yeah, because they're real jeans, they're not tights or anything.
Yeah. So then, like for a decent chunk of the match, his fucking arse and his underwear is coming out his backside. He's got one boot on, so he's got one shoe. He's like a Ninja Turtles villain
It does make it
going
feel like
around
a
the
pub
ring.
fight or something. It's like, oh, he's got this off and this is falling around. Now he's bleeding and they're falling over.
Oh yeah, a real proper old style brawl. It's funny, like it just, and of course Paul Jones, in all his ridiculous pseudo military gear, is out there with Baron von Raschke. He's going to be out a couple of times this show because he's managing some of the various heels on this show. They're part of the Paul Jones army, I guess, at this stage. But yeah, what did you think of this dad brawl between Raschke and
It's good.
Manny?
It's good fun, and it's like it's good variety in the contrast to these matches. So it makes it for a more keeps you entertained, keeps you interested having these different style of matches rather than having ones that are just too similar. And I feel like when it gets to years later WWF, when you occasionally get a bit of color in their matches, it's a real Southern special doing the color and a bit of getting gouged up and scratched and all that. Not death match style, not that super hard, but just the like genuinely brawling and getting a bit of blood and a bit of color. Feels like a real Southern tradition thing.
And it feels like the type of thing that, even though it would be, say, frowned upon, if you were like going to like keep in total kayfabe, if there's like athletic commissions and stuff, and they're not like
Yeah.
they don't obviously
I
want like
always
an
laughed
all
that they
out
had real
crazy.
athletic commissions for a fake sport. They had to follow their bloody guidelines. When it's like, if they just said, no, look, it's all fake, go away. You don't need to be involved in any of this. Just let us get off their bloody jobs and leave us alone.
You could kind of believe that okay, maybe an athletic commission would allow like a tape fist match or a bull rope match or whatever these crazy get, but like when it gets to like that matches and stuff, you're kind of thinking, no, I don't think this would
Yeah.
I don't think this would fly with any reputable
It's like, look, they're beating up the
athletic
crowd and they're
commission.
whipping each other with belts. I don't think they should be doing this.
Yeah. I don't think these explosive devices around the
Yeah.
ring are allowed under our state athletic commission laws. But yeah, it's definitely a fun role here. We're kind of after a few matches there of technical traditional wrestling, we're kind of shifting into a period of the show now where the violence factor is going to be up slightly, and we're going to get a series of brawls and dangerous shenanigans going on in these matches, and this match is kind of the picking off the beginning of that.
Yeah, and I feel a lot of this NWA stuff, or when I say NWA, I mean this year it's the Jim Crockett and Dusty and all that, really innovates like the sort of variety of cage matches and the bunkhouse brawls and the cowboy boots and all that kind of, all this Dusty stuff, and very southern. I love it. So next one we got Wahoo McDaniel with Jimmy Garvin. Now Jimmy in the strap match.
That's right. The first of our we'll have rugged Ronnie Garvin in the next match, but first we got gorgeous Jimmy in this match. Garvin's all over the shop on this show. Yeah, we got Wahoo McDaniel. He's announced
Full
as being from Oklahoma. Full headdress there. Yeah, big contrast here with Jimmy, who's out there with Precious, and he's doing the big glamour gimmick he's been known for up until now. Wahoo's announced from Oklahoma, though later on we'll see him coming out wearing like a Dallas Cowboys t-shirt when he's managing in a match later on. I don't know how happy his fellow Oklahomans would be about him supporting the Dallas Cowboys, but there you go. Probably about as happy as the Native American Indians are about him coming to the ring wearing a full headdress. I don't know, but yeah, Indian strap matches, or as you may be known these days as a Native American strap match, if they were going to be politically correct. I don't know. But
is there a different rule set to just a regular strap match? Is there anything different about it?
There's nothing different at all from what I can gather. It's your regular strap match, your regular let's choke each other with the strap, let's whip each other with the strap, let's one person try and get out of the ring while the other still has a hold of the strap, and then we'll choke them. It's all your classic strap match, greatest hits essentially.
And if you got a good strap, if it's long enough, you can still kind of whip each other with it as well.
Yes, it's essential that you have
punch it up and then like smack them or choke them.
Yeah, you need to be able to get that loud cracking, whipping sound.
Yes.
Especially for the crowd at the back to be able to appreciate what's going on. But like I said, the last match was beginning to turn the tide here, because this is another match that, because of the nature of it, it's gimmicked, it gets kind of violent pretty quickly. They're whipping the shit out of each other with that strap. Wahoo gets busted open pretty significantly during this match as well. He's bleeding. Like, I have to say, there's quite a decent amount of blood on this show overall in a few of the matches, because yeah, by the end of this match, Wahoo is like, his forehead's in bits. It's probably like, his third consecutive night of like razoring his face open,
some of those dudes, man, their foreheads are so scarred up. There's like a road map on there.
Yeah, it's weird how all the skin just kind of like bunches together and stuff. Like, it's like, yeah, it's like a rocky road where their forehead would usually be. But yeah, Dave, a nice it's once again, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's throughout the show, I didn't really miss that there was no commentary for this stuff. It flowed past at a pretty decent pace as it was. I was able to follow along and enjoy it, and I think though part of that is apart from the fact that the guys know what they're doing in the ring to keep you interested, the actual kind of natural live reactions from the crowd, they're just really nice, like, just to keep you invested in what's going on. And when they're really getting behind Wahoo, when he's laying a beating on gorgeous Jimmy, you can kind of feel that swell, that real joyous feeling rise in the crowd as they're watching this despised man be pummeled. Like, it's kind of hard not to get on board with it and get into it, so yeah, the Indian strap match. And I think we've probably reviewed either chain or strap matches now a couple of times. It's not up there with anything really classic like what we've looked at already from what I can remember, but it's still a good match, a good fun match. What did you think of this Indian
solid
strap match?
workers and like bloody young bloods, like one of those old time legends like Dusty and that. You just do a bit of everything, you know. And he's always puts on a good show, like the same as the Andersons or Dusty. Just always puts on a good show. Great entertainer, great worker. Like you see him on some of those old shows with bloody like Slaughter and that, or on those promos, or sometimes it'll be Ric Flair or Piper at the bloody end on those ones, or Jay what's his name? What's the other dude? Jay Youngblood.
There's Wahoo McDaniel and Jay Youngblood, isn't it?
Yeah. So like he's just consistently entertaining, excellent wrestler to me, like all through the decade, you know.
His head there in that picture as well looks like he's about to get through the barricade and get very close to the ring. But yeah, good little brawl here for the Indian strap match, and we're going to see Wahoo. He's going to go back, but I think he comes back out for this next match. I think with Ron Garvin, he actually comes out, I think, to be in the corner for Ron Garvin because Tully Blanchard has JJ Dillon in his corner. So we've got a taped fist match between Ron Garvin and Tully Blanchard.
And have you heard this term before, tape fist? Like, I mean, it looks like kind of like pretend sort of boxing as far as, they're kind of doing a slightly more realistic punch and with the tape and that. But the funny thing is when they do the punches, and they're good working punches. Like, I mean, they can see they're doing a little bit of damage to each other, not full force, but, enough that it's good for the crowd. But then when they put their arms down, they let them hang down by their side. And I'm like, well, if you're boxing, you hold your arms up. So that kind of threw me off a bit. And then occasionally they bust out it reminds me of the old Piper Mr. T one, where they're meant to be boxing. It's like, oh, stuff this, now I'm going to headlock you or throw you every now and then. Every now and then they do a takedown or something, or a wrestling move. And
I was actually, and this is probably one of those matches that did disappoint a bit for me, because I think I would have rather just on paper seen like Garvin and Tully just go at each other in a match, like a normal, like with wrestling moves, basically, because the only times in this match I was really enjoying it was those bits where, like what you were just saying, oh, he's grabbing him now and he's slamming him, or he's doing an elbow drop or whatever. Like, those are the bits of the match I enjoyed. Whereas the parts of the match where they're only like trading the taped fist strikes, like some of that went on for ages. And like, because especially
if you're doing pretend boxing, keep your hands up. Like boxing, they put them down by your side, because like if you're actually punching, immediately someone will just hit you in the chin and knock you out if you're really hitting in that. Whereas if you're doing brawling, I mean, sure, if you're doing brawling, do big haymakers, but then you're going to kind of jump on the ground and ground pound them like UFC and that. And so it's kind of an odd hybrid mix of stuff.
Yeah, because there's even like the when I think you have the dude has to stay down for a 10 count, and that happens just a load of times where Tully's on the ground, the referee's counting 10, but then Garvin will step over him and just hit him again, and it's like, oh lads, like just let it, like when is this going to stop? And also there's rounds as well.
Yeah, because they got the rounds, they got the fake boxing, and then they got the rounds like boxing, so but then the occasional takedown. So it's kind of odd.
But Tully is he seems pretty easily outclassed at the beginning of the match, because like hands of stone, Ronnie Garvin, he's got those hands of stone, so he's just like pummeling his face repeatedly, and it's not until JJ starts a bit of shenanigans and there's some kind of dirty moves by Tully that he's able to take the advantage, and then he's able to bloody Garvin up a bit. But there's nice moments from both corner men where they're trying to, like,
he throws in the bucket of water.
Throwing the bucket of water to try and wake the dude.
And then Dylan's got his there's a coat or a blanket or a towel or something, and he's waving it like this.
Yeah, trying to fan him. Yeah, trying to wake him up. Like, so, like, and even though, like I said, I was kind of disappointed in the action, but it's still entertaining in the sense the crowd are into it. They want to see Tully get his ass beat. I'm just a little bit disappointed because I just would have rather seen them just have a match, like see what they can do again. Because I'm sure they have had matches that have been good as well anyway, but I would just like on this night, and plus we're like now gimmick match number 3 on a show that's going to keep going with them. It mightn't have been a bad idea just to have taken a little break and gone back to like a straight wrestling type of deal just for this one. But the stipulation is there for a reason. There had been a heated rivalry going on, and it had come to this is the way it was going to be settled. But Tully gets extra tape on his hand at one point. JJ gets into the ring and he gives him even extra tape for extra punching power. And there's Tully wins this one, doesn't he? He beats Garvin, but then Garvin I think beats up Aaron. No, Garvin beat him. Garvin beat him. So yeah, there you go. The
I don't know if that's by match or points, or if they're scoring, or what exactly.
We probably mentioned as well for a good few of the matches tonight. It's a very young referee, Errol Hebner, who's refereeing the matches.
I did not know that.
Yeah, before he'd make his big splash in the WWF, he's chilling down here in Crockett Promotions, refereeing a few matches.
Nice.
So yeah, Rugged Ronnie. I do apologize. Tully didn't win. It was Rugged Ronnie who gets the ring or gets the win. They're both bloodied up as well. At the end of it, of course, which is now the third match in a row. We've seen a bit of juice, and we're going to see a bit of juice again now for this next match with the tag.
So next up, we've got Road Warriors versus the Russians, being Ivan and Nikita Koloff, in a Russian chain match. And I've been assured by Crockett Promotions that chain must have traveled all the way from Russia. They didn't buy that at the hardware store just down out of town.
It was forged from pure Russian steel. The chain that these men are linked to at the moment.
It's the chain that I heard. Ivan Drago, he did like reenactment like Hercules. He's like, breaks these pillars and chains and like smashes out. That's where those chains come from, I bet.
Look at how filthy the ring is now from those last few matches. With all the blood and water stains on it.
The blood and the beer.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna get a relatively short and brutal violent brawl here between the Road Warriors and the Russians. It's everything you would expect essentially from a match of this magnitude. We've got 4 big guys who are not afraid to harm each other and are just going to go at it whole hog, and they're going to lay their shit in, and it's going to look brutal at times. Sometimes brutal in a painful way, and sometimes just brutal in a that looks terrible type of way. But they still managed to pull it all together and make an exciting match. What do you think of having this? Is something maybe I don't know how you feel like, but a strap match and a chain match to me are quite similar.
Yeah, they're very similar. I guess they're going to get hurt more potentially from the chain because it can gouge you more. But I mean, both can choke you pretty bad though, and give you welts and choke you up or smash you.
The psychology though of the type of matches are somewhat similar. I suppose at least in this one it's a tag team match, so it's mixing things up a bit. It's not just a singles chain match, which would have been very repetitive after you've watched a strap match already.
The chain versus a strap kind of feels like a bit more Prison Yard or Mad Max or something. It's like, they've got the chains, playing Final Fight. The street gang's coming after you with the chains.
Hawk and Animal are fucking dieseled up in this period as well. They're just ripped. Yeah. Hawk especially, his arms are just unbelievable, just chiseled. Fantastic look he has at this time. Did you notice as well when you're watching this that there's really nice transitions to all the matches? Like one match just ends, they do a black screen, and then it comes to the start of the next match when they're just doing the announcements for who's in it. I like that pacing, and I'm sure that's probably a network edit, but I appreciate it because it actually makes the flow of the show go much smoother. It's really nice. Once again, I'm not having to be subjected to
ads.
I'm not being prime or whatever the shit is they're shilling these days. But yeah,
the obnoxious drink that's always at ringside and the big novelty oversized one they crash into every time.
gotten well dark now, though we're kind of well over the halfway point of the show, so it's proper nighttime vibes here in the arena. It looks pretty cool. But yeah, bloody affair here again, of course. There's a great moment where Animal's getting choked out of it by Nikita, and he just uses his pure power to like take the chain from around his neck and just powers out of it, and then wraps the chain around him instead to choke him. Crowd just go wild for seeing these feats of strength performed by the Road Warriors. Um, it's one of the things. It's not just this match. It's kind of a lot of matches on this show. After the first couple of matches, if you were anyways good at throwing a punch or a kick back in the day, you could get through so many matches just doing that. Like there's so many guys who just they throw really nice looking punches and kicks, and that's what they do for like 70% of their match. They just fucking go in there and there's nothing wrong with it. Like that's the thing. As long as it looks good, you can get away with it. It's when you kind of get into guys who just like throw phony baloney, silly looking punches, you can't really get away with that, and then you need to depend more on doing actual holds and moves. But the Road Warriors and the Russians have no problems throwing believable looking punches, forearms, and kicks at each other for the majority of this match. Like they just look like they are really laying it in and just taking it to each other for this one.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite match on the event. I think I don't think it's the best match, but it was my favorite one. I just like seeing these big, crazy, beefy, rough-looking dudes, and then you add the chains on top, and I'm like, yeah, that's just it gets me excited.
Of course, we have the built-in heat, of course, of the fact that the Russians are supposedly Russian, and we just,
Yeah.
we don't like the Russians at just this period
I
of
don't even
time.
think
Or
about that element of it. It's for, because it's of the era. I'm just like, oh, it's big, strong dudes, and they're fighting. I'm like, okay, great.
I got the old the Soviet Union iconography there on their ring gear, so we have to hate them.
Yeah, I feel like you get for once you get like a physical match for the Road Warriors. Often even when they're fighting guys that are bigger than them, they're still stronger than the bigger guys because they're just like
Yeah,
crazy strong. But here it feels like they're evenly matched.
yeah, it did, and that's the thing with it can go two ways with the Road Warriors. You either put them in there with a smaller team that kind of has to bounce off them while they do their power stuff, or you put them in with a team that's equally as big and powerful and just to be like, okay, kill each other, essentially, like just go in there and just like pummel each other. But the Warriors will always come out on top as like, the ultimate badasses generally in these situations. They're always the ones
Yeah, they almost feel like
to get the win.
I mean, I guess they're usually like the good guys or whatever, but they're like, as far as their costumes and look, they're like the anti-hero heroes sort of guys, They're almost like superheroes, but if they're anti-heroes, they wouldn't be Spider-Man. They'd be like Blade or Punisher or something,
And especially during this era as well, like they would rarely lose matches, and if they did lose matches, it was under very screwy circumstances.
Like if
And
you
if they
go,
did lose a match, they'd get their
if
heat
you had an
back
actual
afterwards.
apocalypse and post-nuclear wasteland, you'd be like, oh, there's the Road Warriors. They just look the same. Just looks like Road Warriors. No difference.
Yeah, they just live here.
Yeah. Still going there kicking ass and just looking rough as guts.
And part of the reason why maybe they didn't ever fully blossom properly in the WWF is because in the WWF they kind of presented them as being vulnerable. They would lose matches, they could be beaten, and once you kind of do that, it takes away a lot of the aura when these
Yeah.
once beatable guys become beatable, so. But not on this night. On this night they are in their prime. They're soaking in all their glory. They maul the Russians in this bloody Russian chain match, this bloody brawl, and it's yeah, another very, very entertaining match on this Great American Bash card. The gutter.
Okay, so next up we have Jimmy Valiant versus Shaska Watley with Paul Jones in a hair versus hair match. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Here today, gone tomorrow. My least favorite match of the show, I
Is
would
this the
say, was
Boogie
this
Woogie Man
match.
or is it a different guy? I always get him confused.
Yeah, it's the same guy. It's that
There's that guy. Yeah.
gyrating dude.
He
Just,
does all those
yeah,
Hogan shaking around moves.
yeah. He's the guy who gets so. You know, I said whatever I said about being able to throw a good punch or kick. Fucking Jimmy Valiant doesn't even look like he can do that sometimes with his goofy looking stuff he does. But I can't explain it. Maybe you had to just be there at the time to understand. I'll never understand how he's so over and just
Yeah, people seem to
adored
like
by
him,
the
but I
crowd.
don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like somebody's granddad just got in a ring and he's having a fit.
And Shaska's going to get he's going to get his hair sheared off in this match by the end of it.
I will say the guy that does the cut, I don't know if he's a wrestler and a barber because he does a very nice smooth cut and he doesn't cut his head like other hair matches. They do it real quick and they accidentally, they cut it real shilly, make a big mess, which is fine if you want to embarrass them anyway. But they don't like make him cut him or anything, like because it's really easy to cut with the fucking razors. I got cut my hair like that all the time.
And yeah, they don't like block. You know, there is sometimes as well, like they try and do the haircut after the match, and like the shears breaks or it gets clogged, or they can't. Like the guy's got like a half haircut or whatever. No, they go to town for the hair at the end. Like his hair's all over the ring. He's like running around afterwards, covering his bald head and like trying to pick it up. He's really comically selling the fact that he's lost his hair. And if people listening are wondering why, I was just going to say, like, there's nothing really to talk about in terms of like what happens in the match itself.
No,
the only thing that matters in this match is the fact that it's the hair stipulation. Because I don't know, man. I thought the action in this match was pretty.
I like the part
good.
where he's getting the clippers, shaving them off, and he's sitting. He's quite relaxed. He almost kind of like close his eyes, having a little nap. Like, all right, doing this, and then he's definitely alert. The moment they stop shaving, he was like, "Oh, I'm unconscious now." Oh, just like passes out. It's just that wrestling acting. Like I was fine until once all the hair went off, that just knocked me out. I'm down.
And then, of course, when he wakes up, he has to be just totally, you know, completely discombobulated. Where's all my hair gone? Can barely get out of the ring because I have to like hold my head in shame. And yeah, but yeah, the crowd just love it though. They love seeing this guy having his head sheared and, you know, getting his comeuppance. Once again, Paul Jones out again. He's doing lots of work tonight, accompanying these lower card heels to the ring for their matches.
But I think like it's, to me, there's more stakes if you get like a real pretty boy like an HBK in the early, you know, the Hunter Hearst Helmsley when he's like doing that gimmick, or Sean, someone who actually has long, luxurious hair. If they have to lose it, it feels like there's more at stake. When it's someone who's already got short hair, I'm like, well, that's got to go back in 4 weeks.
It's crazy as well, even though this match is essentially like a lighthearted kind of blow-off comedy match. They still have Jimmy Valiant bleeding. You know, he still gets cut up. It's like everybody on their way to the ring, you have to sign the "I will bleed," you know, stipulation when you make your way to the ring.
It bleeds, it leads. So next we get a steel cage match where they got Dusty, Magnum, Baby Doll, Midnight Express, and Jim Cornette, which you only see him very briefly in the kind of distance, and it was a nice still though grab there. We see to his expression.
Yeah, I like his kind
of blink and you miss him. He just goes quick, real past the camera, real quick.
You think his ring attire is supposed to be a tribute to Jerry the King Lawler with the way he's.
I was wondering about that. It looks like the Lawler outfit, like he's got the black and the red. It's definitely very comical because he's not a wrestler. He's a manager, and he does the occasional bump or does the racket business. And
because we've got it's an intergender 6-person cage match here, so we've got the Midnight Express and their manager Jim Cornette, and they're going to go up against Dusty, Magnum, and Baby Doll. And it's a pretty crazy stipulation, though it does make perfect sense if you're kind of following along with what was happening at the time, because all the parties involved are deeply involved in feuds with each other. And this is the earlier incarnation of the Midnight Express. It is not the Sweet Stan Lane version. It's Dennis Condrey, the legendary Dennis Condrey, who's in there tonight. But still, whichever version of the team you prefer. I do prefer the second version with Lane, but I still do think they're a fantastic tag team here at the Midnights, and they're going up against pretty much the two most over baby faces in the territory when they're going up against Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA. And you do kind of get a bit sad watching these matches with Magnum sometimes. If he hadn't had that accident, he could have done so much more in the business. You can't help but feel a little bit sad, especially when you see and hear the reaction that he gets from the crowd on this night. It's really something special to behold. But fast and frantic action in this. It's interesting. Like, it's in a cage match, so you kind of assume it's no rules once you're inside the cage, but they still do rely on actually tagging people in and out to get into the ring and get involved in the action. So there's kind of rules within the 6-man or the 6-person tag, parameters of the whole thing. I think what's really most shocking about this match, so first of all, the match itself is very good. If you can, I don't even know how you would watch it now. Maybe the WCW channel will upload this eventually, but if you can't find the footage to watch this
far,
match,
they've been staying away from a lot of the Crockett stuff. I mean, they had Clash of Champions up, but they're mostly doing Turner area WCW and been avoiding a lot of the Crockett stuff, which is unfortunate because it's some of the good stuff.
Definitely, it's worth your while if you can find the footage. I would say go and watch it. Probably the big shocker, or maybe not much of a shocker if you were following at the time, but it's definitely a crowd pleaser, is the fact that it's actually Baby Doll who scores the win for her team in the match, and it's Jim Cornette who takes the loss. So that's a real crowd pleaser, because of course, Cornette at the time, he's a despised heel, the mama's boy, and he's always torturing Baby Doll. So for her to be
he's
able
a despised
to
podcaster, but we love him.
yeah, we love him. But yeah, really big deal on the night for Baby Doll to be able to pin and defeat him and get the win for her team. Of course, it goes without saying, because of who's in the match and also the show that it's on. Once again, there is blood. Dusty in particular, he gets a real gusher going, and it's on it's the aftermath of this match that I was actually talking about earlier, when that guy was just smoking the cigarette, just watching Dusty getting pummeled outside the ring because the Midnights are are jumping him, and he's just getting wrecked, and the guy's just there smoking the cigarette, just watching. It's the most normal thing in the world, like he's seen it a million times. It's just it's a funny.
He's
it's
like,
a funny
quit
visual.
crying, you baby.
I do like as well this for the good guy team here. Dusty, Magnum, and Baby Doll all seem to be wearing those matching Texas style boots. They all kind of have similar attire. What did you think of this one?
I love seeing Dusty in a cage match. It's like, I mean, whether it's singles or tag team or group match or whatever crazy shenanigans they come up with, is just like Crockett area. If you got Flair or Dusty or any of them dudes in like cage matches, I'm like, oh yeah, give me a ticket, give me a ticket right now.
Yeah, it's it rarely fails to disappoint when you get Dusty in a cage, whether it's singles or multi-man, it's going to be a brawl and an exciting affair all around. No, like, that's the thing. Like, everybody on this show, like, I know I complained a bit about the Jimmy Valiant match and all that, but I do have to say, like, everybody who's on this show, the crowd cares about everybody. Everybody's a star for the most part. Even the more comedic acts are still stars. The managers are stars. The valets are stars. If you're a tag team, you're a star. If you're singles, you're a star. Like, everybody who appears on the show is cared about and respected by the crowd, and it keeps the tempo for the show up
Yeah, it's
for
good.
the
It's
whole
good.
event.
It's almost even though like this version of the show did tour, it kind of feels like if it's like your town or team and you go and watch and you're like, these are our local guys and we like them and we want to see what they're going to do. You know, you get that kind of sense from the crowd.
Yeah, great fun. Great to see Baby Doll get the win, and great to see that dude totally unmoved by Dusty's beatdown at the end of the match. And
I bet if he was there long enough, he'd probably be like, I'm just going to put my cigarette out on Dusty if he comes over here. He won't mind.
He's not going to wait to see. He's not going to wait to see the end of this stuff. He's just going to flick his butt at Dusty and walk away. You know. Of course, Dusty's the guy who's you know, he's not just a force on screen at the moment. He's a force backstage. He's pretty much the brains of the operation.
He comes up with so many of these different matches and things and crazy scaffold matches and other nonsense he comes up with that just looks so dangerous. Okay, so last one for the featured presentation, another steel cage match. Hopefully we can leave that one on there and not have to take it down and put another one up because it'll be a pain in the ass for you scaffolding and rigging in it. Ric Flair with Rick Morton. So
Ricky Morton.
Ricky
Morton.
And we get a nice
entrance
helicopter landing from Ric Flair. I presume it was probably parked somewhere nearby, you know, just out of view or whatever. And then they run out and roll out this red carpet, which is pretty cool because he's like, you know, this big NWA touring champion, the belt, fancy belt, fancy robes, but there has to be one of his all-time fanciest robe, the pink one with all the sequins or whatever you call them. And he's got the classic hair. This to me is like the ultimate Ric Flair looking robe.
And the ultimate Ric Flair entrance as well.
Yeah.
I think I might have mentioned earlier, I had watched this match before. I think it's on one of the Ric Flair DVDs as an extra. And yeah, this entrance is amazing. It's so iconic that his own daughter would actually recreate it years later for her own WrestleMania entrance.
She's one of the few that can actually wear those robes well.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, Rick, he's looking absolutely great here. He's coming to the ring with the robe, and of course he's got the big gold belt, the gorgeous belt, one of my favorite championship belts of all time. Look at it there, just a big chunk of gold. The red rubies in it as well. It's just a phenomenal piece of hardware, and he's going up against a very popular babyface in Ricky Morton, of course. One half of the Rock and Roll Express, an incredibly popular.
And he has a mask on, so has he got like a gimmick injury or real injury? An idea?
Yeah, he had been attacked previously. I don't think, as far as I know, it's not a legit injury. I think it's just
I assume it's a gimmick one because then the mask comes off halfway through the match anyway. So
yes, and of course Flair is focusing plenty of offense on his head and face as well. So if it was, you'd like to think it was a real injury, that Flair wouldn't be doing that to him. But yeah, we're actually going to see a really tidy masterclass in wrestling here. And you know, Ricky Morton, he's a really talented guy anyway. He doesn't really need anybody's help to carrying him. But the fact that he's in there with Ric Flair, who is going to go out of his way to make it a good match and to make his opponent look good, it's just the perfect recipe for the perfect match here, essentially, because you know, it's even though Morton, like, he is an underdog in the sense that, like, yeah, he is a taggy guy usually, and this is his shot at the big time, you know, the big single championship. But you know, it's still, you know, it's not totally unbelievable that he could beat Ric Flair here. And as the match progresses and as time wears on, as is usually the case with Ric Flair matches, it always feels like he's getting weaker as his opponent is getting stronger, and it just feels like, you know, like if Ricky can just keep the pace going, and if he can keep going the distance, he's going to be able to hang in there, and he's going to be able to beat Ric Flair eventually. It's just a matter of time before Flair makes a mistake and he's going to slip up, and then once he slips up, Morton's going to be ready and he's going to get the win. And they are brilliant at leading the crowd along that path of thinking that that's what's going to happen. And you know, there's a few times where we think that Ricky has caught that quick pin or he's going to get the W over Flair, but Flair just keeps slipping out right until the point where he does retain and unfortunately beat poor Ricky. But like I said, on his way there, though, he made him look really good. He made it look like he could have believably won and become world champion. And you know, the Rock and Roll Express and Ricky Morton were probably so popular that you could nearly probably get away with giving him the world championship for like a week and then just having Flair win it back if you wanted to do something like that. They probably could have even gotten away with him winning the belt on this Great American Bash and then losing it on, you know, the one few days later, the next live Great American Bash. Dude, like that's how over he kind of was with the crowd, that they probably could have gotten away with it, but they decided not to do that. And Flair retains, he hangs on to the gold, but you know, in the process, like I said, Ricky Morton looks great in defeat. He was competitive the whole way, and like I said earlier, this card is a very nice representation of the Rock and Roll Express in singles action and their ability to work really well as singles. Like, they have the reputation of being the classic tag team, but they proved on this night that they could really go the distance when they were put by themselves in big singles matches with big stars. What did you think of the main event of this one?
I thought it was a really enjoyable match, and I do enjoy a good cage match of this era, particularly like an NWA cage match as opposed to other promotions and that. So they have a good style to them, and I like when they get each other like in the corner, and there's the ropes, the corner, a bit of the cage, and when they rake the face on the cage and all that. I just love all that kind of stuff, and it's I always feel bad for the guys with the cameras. Like, how do you film it without getting too much of the bloody out of focus and the cage constantly in the way and that? And because in the modern ones now you get a camera guy inside the ring as well, so we get all those views. So it's impressive that they actually managed to film it nicely and you can actually see what the hell's going on. But yeah, really enjoyable, solid match. Like I enjoy the heck out of it.
I love the way you can kind of see that the cage is like rusted, unused in this picture as well.
Just like crappy bits of rope and cable ties holding it together in the corners.
Yeah. And the old style of the cages as well, because this is before the era of, well, you have to jump off everything, so they don't even bother having any type of anything on the cage.
Corners and leaping around. It's just basic scaffolding fencing.
Yeah, because you're not trying to escape this cage either. This cage is here to settle the score in the middle of the ring. You know, you won't be going out a door to win this cage match. You're going to you're either going to get pinned or you're going to be submitted. It's going to
so at least one section was different then, because in the Dusty one they did have the door, so I don't know. Unless it's just a different angle. Maybe the doors would
be a different angle.
Yeah,
could be a different angle. But yeah, it's a great main event that tops off a largely great show. And you know, if you were one of the lucky people that was in the audience, that must have been something special, because it's not like it was a show that was broadcast to everybody or that was even probably widely available before this network version of it, you know, came about. So
there's quite a lot of stuff that's not available from back then, so it's lucky this one actually survives.
I believe the announcer says that there's going to be some type of fireworks display after the main event. The crowd don't really seem to give a shit, because a lot of them are just like, get the hell out of there. Yeah, as soon as that bell rings, they're like, all right, the important stuff is over with. And the kids are getting tired. We need to take them home. We're not going to watch bloody fireworks now for the next half hour.
Yeah, we've already had like a couple hours of wrestling and an hour of. I assume the music would be before the wrestling, like a kind of pre-show. I don't know, because it's anything I look up about it tells you there was the music, but it doesn't tell you when it was. So.
Yeah, And I'd imagine you never know. A lot of those blackout transitions between each of the matches could have been just the WWE cutting out musical performances or something like
Yeah,
that
yeah, it could
to
have been
try and
anywhere.
trying to avoid copyright or whatnot. But yeah, hopefully the show in some form reemerges again. Like I was only able to kind of get a chance to watch this one because of your generosity with sending over an unofficial file through
Yeah, well, it's
unscrupulous
gone now. I
means.
mean, it's still in their vault of their stuff. It might turn up on that WCW channel eventually, but they haven't been putting a lot of Crockett stuff up there as such. Yeah, because they'd
Yeah, I
had
think it's
a lot of other stuff from this era that's just not anywhere near other than their digital archives. It used to all be on the bloody network, and now that's gone. So
you might find this main event between Morton and Flair just because it's been put out on DVD previously, so people will
yeah,
probably
and
have
there's
footage of
definitely
it knocking
clips from the
around.
show on YouTube. There's different clips and bits, but not necessarily the full things on there.
And if you would like to know more about the Great American Bash tour from that year, 1986, there is quite a good Jim Cornette podcast episode
Yeah,
dedicated to the whole run of shows
get
that they
right
did,
into it.
including the show that we covered today. But they'll
It
also
even
give you
tells you
some
how
background on,
much attendance is and the money and each one and all that. And he's got the records, he's got the receipts.
yeah, he's got it all the data. But yeah, we had a bit of a bash this week, but I think next week we're due to have a bit of a clash. Is that right?
Yeah, so those fireworks are going from the distance, but we're just gonna we're out of here, mate. So enough of
Yeah.
this. We're
Good luck.
going. But yeah, next week Super Clash AWA Super Clash 3 because that one actually 1, 2, and 3 are all on YouTube for free. The full shows are on
Yes.
there and kind of worth a look. But this is their official pay-per-view. Like they're all super cards, but the other ones are not pay-per-views. They're just like regular, super cards on CCTV or live show or whatever. And you get a mix of AWA, Memphis being Lawler, and which I think they call CW or whatever the hell it is, the Memphis one. And then you got that bloody the one that run Glow, but they went defunct, and then some other ones went on to do POW, like the Powerful Women of Wrestling, whatever it is. You get some ladies from that. So it's a whole mix of stuff, and it's a really interesting event. Plus, Sergeant Slaughter's in there, which is cool.
Yes. Oh, there's a lot of our favorites going to be at
There's
this
a heap
event.
of talent. Cactus Jack's in the opening match with the Guerrero
Yes.
brothers. And
Yes.
Cactus
There's
Jack actually looks fit and healthy. It doesn't look like a schlub. He actually looks healthy and fit.
it's going to be a very interesting hodgepodge of stars, past and
Yeah.
present and future,
And
all together
and
into one place.
Boba Hicks, we're very excited to know that Boogie Woogie Man, he's back again in this bloody event
Yeah.
for some reason. Somehow he's
And
made it over.
I'm excited to know that apparently Johnny and I will be paid the same amount as many of the performers who performed on Super Clash when we covered the show as well. So
At least you will
really
have
looking forward
all
to
of
that.
your limbs and feet.
Yes, yes, but yeah, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be our first foray into talking about the AWA. Ironically, we've chosen a show that's kind of going to represent their downfall in a lot of ways. But I
Yeah.
think it's a good
It's a good show.
place to look into. It's a good show. It's a
We got
controversial
paid, but it
show.
was a good show.
Yeah, and there's going to be
And I'll tell
a
you
lot
that
of stars.
the funniest thing to me when I was rewatching it again the last 2 days is when at the start of it, when they announce right near the start, they talk about welcome to the show and blah blah blah, and they mention about the the big match is going to be Lawler versus Von Erich, and the crowd boos both of them. what you do headline? The crowd really strongly boos, but they're not there. They're just announcing it at the time over the microphone.
Yeah.
They're like, it's going to be, and the crowd strongly boos both of them. Like, what? Why?
Yeah, the old Vern Gagne didn't think that one out too good
Yeah.
when he was
I
coming
just
up
love
with
it
this
though.
event.
Like equally booing, not just some of the crowd, all of the crowd are equally booing both of the lead guys.
Yeah, well, they're still a pair of outsiders. It's
Yeah.
Lola representing Memphis and Carrie representing
Yeah, they are.
Texas.
I
And
just
where's
find
the
it so
event
funny.
taking
Like,
place?
can
Like
you imagine watching
Chicago?
like WrestleMania? It's like Rock versus Austin. They just like boo both of them equally.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
So the match itself, it's going to be a good match, and it's going to be a real happening to discuss and look at. So I am looking forward to the Super Clash 3 and what I believe is possibly our 100 episodes for when we're
Yeah,
going to
it's
be
coming
doing
up to
Super Clash 3 as well. So yeah, be there or be square. You might get paid.
it. But yeah,
We'll
that
pay
wraps
you
it
in
up for the
knowledge.
show for this week, and we're gonna do some more wrestling next week, and yeah, it'll be good fun.
The journey continues. Be there for the big 100. Throw up the axe because someone got injured. But yeah, hope everybody enjoyed the show. Let us know if you've actually watched it before, or you know what your general thoughts are on the Crockett era of this time. And yeah, keep the comments coming, and we'll get and
Well,
chatting
I
to you
think it's a
all
big
next week.
crock of awesome.
All right,
I
folks.
guess
Have a good one.
catch you next week.
Take care.